Welcome to this explainer. Right now, across the entire tech landscape, we're watching a massive wave of product teams rushing to ship artificial intelligence into their tools. I mean, it is quite literally the gold rush of our era. But behind the scenes, there's a quiet crisis unfolding. These teams are completely failing to generate actual, measurable business value. So we're going to look at exactly why this is happening, and more importantly, how the successful few are crossing the gap between just adding AI and actually creating lasting value.
To really grasp the scale of this problem, we need to look at a staggering reality recently revealed by MIT research. 95%. 95% of enterprise AI pilots completely failed to produce any measurable return on investment. Just think about that for a second. Think about the sheer amount of time, the venture capital, the thousands of engineering hours poured into these initiatives across the industry, only for 95 out of 100 of them to end up doing absolutely nothing for the bottom line. It is an incredible failure rate.
So we have this massive paradoxical gap. On one hand, a whopping 64% of product teams are aggressively adding AI to their roadmaps right now and shipping it to users, but simultaneously, we have that 95% failure rate for actual ROI. How can so many teams be actively building while almost none of them are succeeding? Well, it tells us something profound. The physical act of building the technology is no longer the hard part. The real friction lies somewhere else entirely.
Let's get into part one, the root cause of failure, and why shiny demos aren't moving metrics.
You know, most of these failed pilots share a common, pretty fatal origin story. They fall into a trap. They start with the technology. A team sees what a brand new AI model can do. Maybe it generates incredible text or it sorts images instantly. They get really excited and they immediately build a feature. They're essentially building a solution that's desperately looking for a problem, only to launch it to absolute crickets. Winning teams, however, they start with the problem. They identify a deep customer pain point first, validate that it actually matters, and only then ask if AI is the right tool to solve it.
Think about how it used to be. Historically, software was expensive and time-consuming to build. That high cost actually acted as a natural filter, right? It killed bad ideas early in the planning phase because nobody wanted to waste 6 months of expensive engineering time on a hunch. You really had to prove the value up front. But AI fundamentally removes that friction. You can spin up a prototype over a single weekend now. The result? Teams are shipping these 10-minute wow demos like chatbots that hallucinate perfectly, that look absolutely incredible in a boardroom, but fail completely in the real world because the underlying idea just lacked true strategic value to begin with. Which brings us to part two. What is product judgment? The human element AI can't automate. I want you to really think about this idea. AI is extraordinary at generating options and terrible at deciding which one matters. An AI model is a fantastic brainstorming partner. It can generate a dozen different options, write boilerplate code, or synthesize massive amounts of text in seconds. But an AI model cannot tell you what a good outcome looks like for your specific business. It doesn't know your market positioning. It doesn't know the nuances of your user personas. And most importantly, it cannot tell you when a flashy new capability is actually just a giant distraction from your core mission. And that is exactly where product judgment comes in. It represents the hard, strategic human work of diagnosis and weighing complex trade-offs. Crucially, it's the willingness to say no to unnecessary features, even when those features are incredibly cheap and easy to build. This strategic decision-making is the vital human element that does not get automated. And sadly, it's the exact step the failing 95% of enterprise pilots completely skipped over in their rush to implement the latest trending model.
Okay, part three, wrapping AI in evaluation, moving from scripted demos to real-world value.
So, how do we actually fix this? Well, the 5% of teams who are winning don't just ship a model and pray. They wrap their AI in continuous evaluation. It's a rigorous 3-step process. First, they explicitly define what a good output looks like before they ever launch. Second, they measure that output continuously against their definition. And third, they adapt and improve the system the exact second they detect that the quality is drifting.
This really requires a total mindset shift regarding how we validate our work. A demo is comforting, sure, but it really only proves that the tool works exactly once under perfectly scripted conditions. An evaluation, or an eval, proves the tool works repeatedly for real users who are navigating complex, messy, and totally unscripted paths. Evals are how you stress test the edges of your product. They're how you actually build trust with your user base, proving that the system holds up when it meets the chaotic reality of human behavior.
Plus, the teams that are successfully getting a return on their investment share a strict discipline. They firmly tie their AI work directly to revenue or a core business outcome. They do not rely on vanity metrics like number of messages generated. Before a single line of code is written, they explicitly name the target metric the AI is supposed to move, and they establish the exact numerical threshold that will count as a success. If it doesn't hit the threshold, it doesn't ship. Period.
Let's look at Part 4, Building Systems That Learn, the architecture of the successful 5%.
Ultimately, crossing the AI ROI gap requires rethinking your entire operational structure. The job of a product team today is to construct a learning architecture that operates as a continuous loop. You take raw signals in from your users and your market. You surface real, tangible opportunities to solve problems. You validate your bets using rigorous human product judgment. You capture your decisions clearly. You measure the outcomes continuously through evaluations. And then, you repeat the cycle. This engine is exactly what separates enduring product value from fleeting technical novelties.
But there's a catch here. To make this cycle function at speed, your user signals, your strategic decisions, and your evaluation results must live in a single, connected environment. If your signals are isolated in one tool, your decisions in a spreadsheet, and your results in a separate dashboard, the learning loop breaks down. This need for a unified workspace is the foundational concept behind Specky and its interconnected product graph, ensuring that the entire lifecycle of a product bet remains visible and actionable in one unified place.
The 5% of teams who are actually succeeding in this era all have one thing in common. They refuse to let the model make their strategic choices. AI is an incredible tool for execution, but a terrible substitute for human judgment. So as you look at your own roadmap today, you really have to ask yourself a hard question. Are you leading the AI with rigorous product judgment, or are you letting the technology think for you? Thank you for joining us for this explainer. Keep learning, keep evaluating, and we'll see you next time.